Believe it or not, Link's bare chest holds a secret, and this is just one of 25 secrets, Easter eggs, and hidden details in the world of Tears of the Kingdom that I think are particularly interesting. All of these are spoiler-free because they can all be found within the first hour to 2 hours of gameplay. The first 20 very much so, and the last 5 are dependent on where you go first in the story, but yeah, these are all for you to enjoy while you play through the game. So without further ado, let's get on with 25 secrets, hidden Easter eggs, and cool details that I found in Tears of the Kingdom, and happy launch day, everyone. Also, thank you to the over 2,000 of you who have subscribed and the over 17,000 of you who checked out my last video, and let's go! Number 1, when you start off the game, you play as Link, and Link has all of his heart containers and stamina wheels. This means that this version of Link has completed all of the Sheikah trials from Breath of the Wild, explaining possibly their absence in this game. No need for Sheikah trials because he has already completed them. Number 2, very quickly in the opening cutscene, Zelda comes across a mural depicting the acts of what she calls the Imprisoning War. Now, the Imprisoning War is actually an event that happened in Zelda history in the pre-story to A Link to the Past. However, it doesn't seem to be referencing the same Imprisoning War, and to be fair, any war that involves the imprisoning of Ganondorf, which is a lot of them, could be considered the Imprisoning War. Number 3, additionally, she refers to Ganondorf in this image as the Demon King, and of course this is a reference to Demise, the Demon King from Skyward Sword, whose ancient curse repeats itself across history, allowing for Ganondorf's evil to exist. Number 4, she starts taking photos of these with the Purapad, and the Purapad is of course a Nintendo Switch. It's interesting to me that actually the Sheikah Slate is not really a Wii U gamepad, which is what Breath of the Wild was originally designed for, but yeah, this is very clearly designed to look like a Nintendo Switch console. I'd actually like to see this version of the Switch exist. Speaking of which, if you see this video in the first couple days of it being posted, I am doing a giveaway for the Tears of the Kingdom limited edition Switch OLED, details in the description and the comments. Number 4, when they get downstairs and they find the body of Ganondorf there, Ganondorf's eyes open wide, and the eyes inside are the same eyes that we've seen across Malice in Breath of the Wild, confirming that of course it was Ganondorf who is responsible for that malice, and it's his eyes that have been seeing everything possibly across Hyrule. Number 6, Ganondorf directly references Rauru, the first king of Hyrule, by name. Now, Rauru is a name that has appeared before in the series with Rauru, the Sage of Light from Ocarina of Time, but Rauru wasn't his only identity. As well as being the Sage of Light who lives within the Temple of Time, he was also the owl, Kebora Gabora, who, in the days of Skyward Sword, was the name that belonged to Zelda's dad. I just realized I said who, and he's an owl. 7, after Ganondorf does awake and attacks Link and Zelda, Link wakes up in the Room of Awakening, and this is a recurring Easter egg throughout Zelda. Most Zelda games start with Link waking up from being asleep. I was actually surprised when Link didn't wake up at the very beginning of the game, so this made a lot of sense to me, and when I saw it, I went, I get that reference. Okay, number 8, we're going to talk about this. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but when I was on the Great Sky Islands, I could not find Link's shirt. And so I was looking at a bare-chested Link the whole time, and I realized Link doesn't have nipples, and this is on purpose. There are some really good videos by Thomas Game Docs about Mario's nipples and Link's nipples, but it seems that Nintendo characters are getting redesigned to have less nipples. And I know this is old news. Mario had nipples in Mario Odyssey, now he does it in official art, and it looks like Link has gone the same way. Okay, most of the other Easter eggs are more Tears of the Kingdom specific. Number 9, as you travel across the Great Sky Island, you might come across this animal. It's a bird, and it's actually a flightless bird called a forest ostrich. Ostriches, of course, being generally flightless. It's odd that flightless birds would exist on the Great Sky Islands, where the adaptation of flight would seem to be particularly useful. However, they do remind me a lot of the Loftwings from Skyward Sword. I wonder if they could be related. Number 10, you'll also come across the zonai constructs who will both help and hinder you across the Sky Islands. They act as guards, sort of like Armos from old Zelda games, and specifically they remind me of the Armos that appear in Minish Cap outside the Wind Temple, where the structures on the floor look very similar to the stone patterns that appear across the Great Sky Islands. Between that and the fact that the Wind Tribe lived in the sky, I do wonder if there could be a connection there. Number 11, you'll soon come to your first shrine or trial, and unlike the Sheikah shrines from Breath of the Wild, which all seem to be in underground chambers, these seem to be in some other space. Rauru describes this space as being a space of pure sacred light. I do wonder if these are happening in the sacred realm. They're certainly happening in another dimension, as you can see through the doorway, much like stepping into a TARDIS. Of course, number 12, you were learning about all this at a building called the Temple of Time, and you will probably be familiar of the Temple of Time that appears throughout the series. And this Temple of Time, despite the outside looking very different to the one that appears on Hyrule's surface in Breath of the Wild, has actually very similar interiors, same as the one from Ocarina of Time. You have a little pedestal where the 3 sacred stones would go, then followed by what you would describe as the Gate of Time. You can only open the gate in this game by reversing the flow of time using recall, or in Ocarina of Time by using the Ocarina of Time. Don't take a shot for every time I say the word time. And by controlling this Gate of Time, you are able to exit through and find yourself to the pedestal where in Ocarina of Time you would get the Master Sword, and in this game you lose the Master Sword. Number 13, on Raru's main body design, you can see what looks to be the face of an owl. This is, of course, a reference to Keibora Gabora, the owl that Raru becomes in Ocarina of Time. At number 13, Raru also has what appears to be time crystals littered across his ears. Again, another reference to his control of time. I'm going to stop saying the word time soon, and these seem to be similar to the ones from Skyward Sword that can reverse time when you attack them with, like, an arrow. Number 15, this whole opening Great Sky Island area is in itself a reference to the tutorial area from Breath of the Wild, in which you must go to the Great Plateau, aided by the Spirit King of Hyrule, and go across 4 different shrines and access Link's main abilities. Number 16, if you find yourself with some extra supplies, get cooking, and you're going to hear Link sing a number of songs and hum a number of tunes that are famous Zelda tunes throughout the series. He's kind of got this musical side. One of them that I recognized most prominently was Saria's song from Zelda Ocarina of Time. Number 17, you'll notice that the eye symbol that is appearing absolutely everywhere across this Sky Island seems to be a very early iteration of the Sheikah eye symbol that appears, of course, very prominently in Breath of the Wild. The Sheikah are a race of people who have always worked alongside the royal family of Hyrule, and it seems to be that now we know why. They have the same origin point. They all came from this same species, the zonai, at some point in history. Number 18, when you finally make your way down to the surface of Hyrule, you'll start chatting to the people of the Lookout Point. And there you will learn about Lurelin Village, a village that is actually in itself a reference to Zelda the Wind Waker's Outset Island, with a watchtower much like Ariel's watchtower, and the layout of the village being very similar to Outset Island from Wind Waker, but specifically you're going to learn that it's been attacked by pirates, and this seems to be a reference to the Wind Waker when at the beginning of the game, pirates visit Outset Island. Number 19, also if you walk around and you go to the shop, you might encounter bottles of fresh milk, and if you have a look at the fresh milk logo on the front of the bottle, it is very much the Lon Lon Ranch milk logo that appears through other Zelda games of the franchise. And number 20, before we get onto some more juicy bits, when you first go into your first Sky Tower and you stand on the platform, you'll notice that it looks like some of the Sheikah technology has been repurposed for this very tower, and in fact the arms that show up out of the base are, of course, the Guardian arms from Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now these are just 20 and I've got 5 more, but all of this is within the first hour of the game, which is wild given how big the game is. I think it would be pretty easy to do an Easter eggs and secrets video for brand new Easter eggs and secrets specific to Tears of the Kingdom with over 100 in, and maybe I'll get around to doing that if this channel gets enough support. By the way, again, thank you so much for all the subscribers, but let's do 5 more, and these next 5, while they are visitable within the first hour of the game, for these last 5 Easter eggs, I want to caution a slightly higher spoiler warning. All of these are still playable within the first 2 hours of the game, but it does depend which of the 4 main races you go to visit first, whether that's the Gorons, the Gerudos, the Rito, or the Zora, so perhaps you'll have only encountered one of these, but all of this is still very minor spoiler stuff. Let's start with the Zora. So, since the events of Breath of the Wild, you and Sidon worked together to, of course, thwart the plague at the heart of the Divine Beast, and so now there is a statue of you, the hero Link, and Sidon in Zora's domain. But originally there was a statue of Mipha there, and her statue has been moved to a new location up north, up overlooking the whole domain. The statue still exists, it's just got its own special location out of the way. If you visited the Rito village first, then you'll have absolutely learned about the Stormwind Arc. When you first walk into town, it's the first thing people are talking about. It's an arc that saved the Rito people in ancient times, and it's the stuff of legend and myth. My belief, of course, is this is a reference to Zelda the Wind Waker, where the Rito make their first appearance. I think it's likely that they were saved by the Great Flood by this very arc. Of course, if you visited the Gerudos in the desert, then you may have gone underneath the Gerudo village by way of a passage, and if you go to that passage, you're going to find an item that you don't really find in many other locations of the game. It's something that you can manipulate with your Ultra Hand ability, and that is the Mirror Shield, allowing you to deflect light to help out with various puzzles. The Mirror Shield is an obvious reference to the Mirror Shield from Ocarina of Time that you get in the Gerudo Desert. You're also able to get a Mirror Shield in a number of other games. It's a shame to see it not as an actual shield, but it's fun to get to use the Ultra Hand ability to help solve puzzles with it. And number 24, if you went to visit the Gorons first, then you might have seen that a lot of the lava around Death Mountain has dried up, and instead you can see in the ground there seems to be these pools of water shaped like giant geckos. I believe these are the leftovers of Varadunia when he was walking and stomping around the Death Mountain. And number 25, speaking of the Divine Beast, this is an amiibo-related secret. If you scan the amiibos for the champions from the Age of Calamity, you can get the masks from the Divine Beast from Breath of the Wild, which is super cool. They provide different buffs and resistances depending on the things related to the areas you would visit. So, for example, heat resistance for Varadunia's mask to help you out, of course, with the Death Mountain. And that is the Nipples one not included. 25 brand new secrets, Easter eggs, hidden little things in the world of Tears of the Kingdom that you can find within the first hour of playing. This game is jam-packed with stuff, and I can't wait to talk about so much more. I got a theory that I'm already working on that I'm hoping to get out to you either at the end of the weekend or the beginning of next week. Of course, these videos will become progressively, they'll start very spoiler light, and I will always give spoiler warnings and then get more spoiler heavy as the weeks go on. Thank you so much for supporting this brand new channel. I am so excited about just being here. Thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. Let's push this as far as we can go. Of course, check out the description and comments for details on the Switch OLED giveaway, and subscribe if you want more of this. I am super excited and happy to be here.